Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to this review of the Real Steel Bushcraft knife, Kydex sheath, G10 handle scales, D2 steel with a Scandi grind. This knife is spectacular, especially for the price, and after you see the testing footage, I think you'll agree. Stick around for the review. Alright, so as we get into this review, let's go ahead and quickly take a look at the knife itself. You can see that blade has got a nice general purpose shape to it, good for bushcrafting, and nice Scandi grind on it as well. Some good jimping right there on the spine, and the handle is nicely contoured, well rounded. I don't feel a lot of sharp edges on this. Down here towards the base, you got some corners for sure, but otherwise it is very nicely contoured. Coyote brown G10 on the outside and a nice bright red on the inside, just popping out, you know, and creating a really nice accent, of course. And the handle, the stock, or the tang, I should say, of the blade, obviously showing through all of that and looking very cool. Nice accent, nice aesthetics to it. Set the blade down for a second and examine the sheath. Now, I think the sheath really shines. Yeah, it's just Kydex. I mean, you know, what can you say about a Kydex sheath except it works really well. It's got a little drainage hole right there at the back. You can also see that the belt clip portion of it, which you will need to thread through your belt because there's no real way to sort of just clip it over your belt. It's not a big deal in my opinion, but you can see that it's drilled out all over the place here so that you can reposition this pretty much however you need to in order to make it comfortable for you, the user. And it appears that it would be perfectly fine to swap to the other side and use left-handed. So that's a big bonus as well. And how does this fit in that sheath? Nice click, no noticeable rattle. Well, maybe if I go like that there is, but shaking it this way, none. That is very, very good. So I'd say that the sheath, the knife, the way they made up is perfect. Now let's see if we can cover some specs. We'll go ahead and get the ruler out here. Let's see what our blade length is. And it looks like we come in right around, see if I can measure that there, just about 4 inches. And for those of you who are curious about the millimeters, the metric measurements, just a little over 10 centimeters it looks like. So pretty good length. I actually really like that 4-inch blade length. That gives me all the power I need right next to my hand for a lot of fine utility. And honestly, when they were talking about bushcraft, this is not necessarily a big all-purpose survival knife. This is a utility knife, a bush utility knife, really. And I think that 4-inch blade length is perfect for that. Handle length or overall length, let's see if we can get that here. That comes in just about 8.5 inches, as you can tell there. And once again, going metric, looks like about 21.5 centimeters. Blade thickness, we might as well nail that down right now. And here's a look at what that is in inches and then also in millimeters. So you're looking at, what is that, 3.5 millimeters, something like that. Anyway, pretty nice thick stock on that, nice blade. And it looks like, what is it, about 2 centimeters in width for the handle. And in inches again, that's I think around 0.8. is what my specs say. So a good width on the handle, nice thickness on the blade as well. Let's go ahead and get our weight as well, and we should probably measure it with the sheath since that's how you're going to be carrying it. And it looks like our weight is 7.6 ounces with the sheath. And just for kicks and giggles, 5.8 without. Yeah, that's a pretty nice lightweight knife. There's a lot of folding knives that come in at that weight. But again, 7.6 with the sheath. And we switch units, 218 grams. All right, time for a closer examination. We covered a few details of it at the first, but let's talk some more about this knife. D2 steel is what you get on the Real Steel Bushcraft. An excellent steel, and I've used it for a number of different knives and different applications. I like it. It's not my favorite, but honestly, it is one of the better steels that you're going to get into. So D2 on a Bushcraft knife that comes in about 55 bucks. 55 bucks for D2 in a knife like this, that is very, very good. And that is, of course, explained by the fact that it is produced in China. We talked before about the Scandi grind on it. Let's give you a bit closer look at that. You can see that it is very nicely polished, and I can attest that it came out of the box very, very sharp. So no issues with that, except maybe this tip right here. Yeah, I would say that if there is one thing they could have worked on a little better, it's that tip. And you can see what I'm saying right there, how they probably just rounded that off just ever so slightly as they were polishing and sharpening that up in its final stage. You know, having done knife sharpening myself, I can tell you that that is easy to do by accident, and it looks clearly like somebody did. Once again, that is probably a quality control issue, and maybe that's just what you're going to get, given that you're buying this, you know, $55 D2 steel knife from China. One other thing to talk about is the bottom, the pommel of the knife. I noticed that as I was working with this little area right here and kind of getting that into my palm and sort of drilling into the tree that I was working on, I did notice that that sharp edge became a little fatiguing. Yeah, it's not super sharp, but it's a corner. It's by no means rounded right here. And that goes with this side as well. So when you're holding it in this grip, when you're holding it in that grip, it doesn't bother you at all. There's nothing fatiguing about that. However, when you get it in hand like this and you're actually kind of pushing down on it as if it's a screwdriver or something and you're trying to drill a hole into a log, yep, a little bit fatiguing, especially without gloves. And I tried to work without gloves this time to make sure that I picked up on any of those little ergonomic issues. I think it's about time we bring in some comparisons. And one knife that I would definitely compare this Real Steel Bushcraft against, particularly for the price, I'll bring this out right now, and let's go ahead and zoom back a little bit so you get a good view of it. I think we should definitely look at this guy right here, the Mora Bushcraft Black. And how does it compare to that one? Let's set the two side by side. You can see how the blade thicknesses differ, as well as how the handles differ. Okay, I would definitely say that the Bushcraft Black has a more comfortable handle. It is more of a rubberized texture, and so in hand you've got a nice grip on it constantly. In any position, it doesn't really bite into you because it's just molded and rounded everywhere. I do like that better about the Bushcraft Black. However, this is just I believe it's just a stainless steel. I don't think this is their 14C28N or one of those other steels that they've used in the past. This, however, D2 and G10, very durable materials, very quality materials, so that might be your selling point right there. Anyway, we'll bring that right here next to the Bushcraft Black. Maybe one other we can bring in. How about the Schrade SCHF42, which I found to be a really durable knife. This thing is tough. It's 1095 steel. It's really inexpensive. Harder handle to it for sure, and not going to be real comfortable in a lot of different positions because of that kind of biting pommel. But in most work that I did with this knife, it's really, really good. And that pommel, of course, is great for hammering stuff into the ground, sticks and your tent pegs or whatever. So that's a really good one. If we were to pick one more knife to compare it against, there's a few others here I could look at, but what I think I'll throw in is this one. This is more in the survival vein, and that is the Gerber Strong Arm. But there's just kind of a look at how the Real Steel Bushcraft compares to some of the other popular knives that are out there, and I think it compares very well. The Real Steel Bushcraft knife could certainly be improved in a few ways, but given what you get for the price you pay, this knife is just outstanding, and I'm really, really impressed with how it's performed. Thanks for watching this review. I'm the Late Boy Scout. We'll see you later. The weight of the knife, at least, is about 3.8 ounces, roughly 4 ounces for that thing, which is actually, surprise, surprise, kind of heavy for a Mora. Kind of heavy for a Mora. And as I show you a couple other ones here in a moment, I don't have the weights on those, but I know they're considerably lighter.